Most of us are taught that a big salary is the ultimate sign of success. But what if I told you that chasing a bigger and bigger paycheck is actually one of the fastest ways to hit a financial wall? Yeah, let's get into this, because we're going to break down why your salary, the very thing you're working so hard for, might be what's keeping you broke. It sounds totally backwards, right? You grind for that raise, you finally get the big promotion, but somehow you don't feel any more free. In fact, sometimes you feel even more trapped. Well, that's what we're going to unpack. We're going to show you how to shift your mindset from just earning a wage to actually building real, lasting wealth through ownership. So here's the whole thing in a nutshell. It really boils down to two completely different games you can play. On one side, you've got the wage earner. You're trading your time, which is finite, by the way, for money. That means your income will always have a ceiling. But the equity owner, they own the outcome. They own the business, not just a job inside it. And that gives them totally uncapped potential for growth. Understanding this one difference is everything. And that leads us straight to our first big idea, what I call the salary trap. It's this sneaky, subtle cycle that keeps millions of really hardworking people feeling stuck. And it's all built on that flawed idea of just trading your hours for dollars. Here's how the trap works. You get a nice raise. And what's the first thing you think? I deserve a nicer car, or we can finally afford that bigger house. It's called lifestyle inflation. The problem is, your expenses don't just go up, they often go up faster than your income. So you're working harder, you're making more money, but you have less freedom. You're just running faster and faster on a hamster wheel that's not going anywhere. I heard this piece of advice from a mentor years ago, and it completely changed how I thought about everything. It just clicked. You can be the absolute best at your craft, the most talented, the most efficient person in the whole company. But if you don't have ownership, if you don't own a piece of the building, you're still just building someone else's asset, not your own. Okay, so if the salary path is a trap, what's the escape route? Well, let's break it down by looking at two totally different ways to build a career. We'll call them Path A and Path B. So Path A is the one everybody knows. It's the one we're all told to follow. Get the safe job, get that steady paycheck, and it feels good at first. Your friends are impressed, you can buy some cool stuff. But here's the catch. In the long run, this path always leads to a plateau. Your income just hits a ceiling because there are only 24 hours in a day. You eventually run out of time to trade. Now, Path B, this one looks a little weird from the outside, especially at the beginning. It might mean taking a job with lower pay. Your friends might even think you're falling behind. But here's the secret. While everyone else is collecting cash, you're collecting skills, and, more importantly, you're collecting equity. This path doesn't plateau. It's a launch pad. This is where you get that insane exponential growth because you own a piece of the outcome. Just stop and think about that for a second. Think about the hardest working person you know, the one who's always grinding, always putting in the extra hours. Why do they so often seem to be struggling the most? It's not because they're lazy, that's for sure. It's because they've become masters at a game that is fundamentally designed to keep them exactly where they are. Okay, so you want to get on Path B, but how do you do that if you don't have a bunch of cash to invest? The answer is you have to stop being a simple, single-purpose tool. You have to start building yourself into a Swiss Army knife. See, most people in the workforce are like a butter knife. They do one thing pretty well, and that's fine, but it also makes them really, really easy to replace. A Swiss Army knife, on the other hand, can solve a whole bunch of different problems. When you start stacking skills, you don't just get a little bit better. You become this unique, powerful combination that is incredibly valuable and almost impossible to replace. Here's what that actually looked like for me. Every job I took wasn't just about getting a paycheck. It was about adding another tool to my belt. First, I learned to trade, how to build something. Then I had to learn how to sell it. After that, I needed to understand how it was actually made, the manufacturing process. And finally, I had to learn how to manage the people and the business. See how each skill builds on the last? You become the asset. Now, today, the most valuable blades you can add to your knife are almost all digital. But think about the combinations. If you can write amazing copy and you can edit killer videos, you're not just a writer or an editor anymore. You're a one-person content machine. If you can code and you know how to integrate AI, you're not just a developer. You are literally building the future of whatever company you're in. So, you've built this amazing Swiss Army knife. You're incredibly valuable. Now what? How do you actually turn that into ownership? This is where we talk about sweat equity, the actual mechanic of turning your unique skills into a real piece of the pie. Simply put, sweat equity is how you buy into a business when you don't have a pile of cash. You're trading your hard work and your unique skills for a percentage of the company. But, and this is a huge but, you can't just walk in and demand it. You have to earn the right to even have that conversation.
And this part requires a moment of real, maybe even uncomfortable self-awareness.
You have to ask yourself this question and be brutally honest. Are you just showing up and doing the tasks you're assigned? Or are you actively hunting for the biggest, ugliest, most painful problems in the business, the things that keep the owner staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and solving them? Equity isn't a bonus for good attendance. It's your reward for becoming a true partner. So here's a playbook. Go find a solid, older business that's just terrible with technology. You know the type. Their website looks like it's from 1998. They have no social media, no online sales. Go to them and prove you can make them money or save them money. First. Then, once you've proven your value, you make the offer. You say, pay me a smaller salary and give me a piece of the new growth that I create for you. You're betting on yourself. Now, the strategy is pretty straightforward, right? But for a lot of us, the biggest thing holding us back isn't our boss or the economy or lack of opportunity. It's what's going on between our own ears. So let's talk about winning the mental game. We all have a comfort zone, but a lot of the time, it's really a self-imposed prison. The fear of what might happen, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, keeps us locked inside, even if we're miserable. But the crazy thing is, when you talk to people at the end of their lives, their biggest regret is rarely something they did that failed. It's almost always the things they were too afraid to even try. It's the inaction. You have to reframe this in your head. This is such a powerful idea. Every single time you hear the word no, every time an idea gets shot down, you're not failing. You are actively pushing the boundaries of your world. That feeling of discomfort, that's not failure. That is the feeling of growth. That's your circle getting bigger. And that leads us to this final mental model. In your career, you have two tools you can use, a magnifying glass or a mirror. The magnifying glass focuses outward. It blames the economy, your boss, the system, anything and everything else. That's a powerless victim mindset. The mirror, though, the mirror focuses inward. It forces you to ask, am I valuable enough yet? Have I earned it? That is the mindset of an owner. So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. As you go forward from here, take a hard look at how you view your career. Are you constantly holding up a magnifying glass, searching for something or someone else to blame for where you are? Or are you looking in the mirror, ready to build the kind of value that no one can ignore? The choice really is all yours.